Hello, and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is November 1st, 2024. This is episode 310. Stand-up comedian, actor, improviser, and dreamer, Paul Green, sharing my journey on the daily. Because the people need to know. Everybody needs to know. Hey, what is Paul Green up to today? I mean, we listened to him yesterday, but we better listen to him today. So I am sharing my journey, thoughts, insights, as I pursue my dream as a comedian, as a performer, as an actor, and whatever tidbits and insights and whatnot that I pick up along the way, sharing them with all of you beautiful people out there. Hoping it does a little good, hoping it provides a little positivity and a little insight, and if anything, maybe helps anybody out there who's, going through their own life, pursuing their own dreams and goals, to maybe not feel alone, to be like, hey, we're all out here trying to figure this thing called life out. And, sometimes things don't go as planned, and sometimes amazing things happen. And it's really just a matter of hanging in there. If there's anything that I've learned about pursuing a dream, it really is just a battle of attrition. It's last man or last woman standing. It's who didn't quit, who kept pursuing, and who quit. And by the way, sometimes quitting is perfectly acceptable if the if the drive is no longer there, or if priorities shift, desires shift, life circumstances shift. I'm reminded of I think it was a TED Talk. It could have either been a TED Talk or an interview with Simon Sinek. If you don't know Simon Sinek, he's a fairly famous thought leader in the business space. Talks a lot about business, really from the human element of how to inspire people in an organization, how to create organizations that have longevity, and he's kind of the counter corporate spokesman, counter corporate culture, sort of the traditional corporate culture of hire an employee, work him to death, get as much out of him as possible, and then the moment you need to make a budget cut, lay everybody off. Sort of the fear-based culture where every employee is just working out of fear of losing their jobs, and employees are often incentivized to sweep mistakes under the rug. The power grab, the quest for promotion, the quest for making yourself look better than the next guy, the quest of making sure that you are never at fault for anything, and any mistake that you make sure you hide it and conceal it, or even worse, put it on the other guy's plate to, make them the fall guy. All of that sort of corporate cultural nonsense that I think has really dominated much of the American business landscape for many, many decades. So Simon Sinek is sort of the kind of the counter voice to that. And it's just like, and his whole thing is like, no, it actually is really beneficial to take care of your employees. And it's actually really beneficial to have a culture to where when an employee makes a mistake, they feel safe enough to speak up and say, hey, I messed this up, and then we can actually adequately fix it instead of sweeping problems under the rug or pretending they don't exist. He talks a lot about hiring leaders versus managers, and all of that stuff. And he gave a TED Talk where he talks about infinite versus finite game theory. Ho, 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 ho. We are nerding out today on the Paul Green Comedy Podcast. We're talking game theory, everybody. And if I remember correctly, he was actually quoting somebody else's work. So I think he was, and unfortunately, I don't know who to give the credit to who actually derived the theory. I just remember Simon Sinek was commenting on it and giving his 2 cents. And it really resonated with me. So in life, you have finite games and you have infinite games. Finite games are anything that we would recognize as a game. Sports, board games, contests, anything like that. And what defines a finite game is there are set rules, there's a set time frame, and there are known players. And the objective is to operate within those parameters and to ultimately win the game. Is decided by what the game determines is the winner. It's not rocket science. It's pretty easy to recognize what a finite game is, right? Football, finite game. You got 11 players on offense. You got 11 players on defense. There's 4 quarters. The goal is to, get the football across the goal line or to kick it through the uprights. And whoever has scored the most points at the end of 60 minutes wins the game. And of course, there's a whole litany of rules in between that, first downs and what's a first down and what are yards and what's a penalty and, and all of that, right? So, but it's a finite game. There's a beginning, there's an end. At the end, there's a winner and a loser based off of the rules and parameters of that game. And that's the case with any finite game. Baseball, basketball, chess, checkers. Anyway, finite games, right? But then he talks about a different type of game, which are called infinite games. Infinite games, very different. Infinite game, there are known and unknown players. There is no rules to determine who wins or who loses. There's really no rules in terms of, or the rules are constantly changing. So there is not a set standard of rules. And by the way, not everybody in the game has to play by any set of rules. Everybody can be playing by their own set of rules. And the only objective of each individual player within the game is to continue to play the game. And the only way to win the game is to continue to play it. The only way to lose the game is to run out of the resources or the will to continue to play the game. So there is no designated winner or loser because the game doesn't have an endpoint. And there is and you don't really know who you're playing the game with, a game with, right? And so when you look at something like business, right? So business is an infinite game, right? Because what does business mean? Business means, all right, somebody, some business owner or business owners get together and say, okay, we're going to create a business and we're going to go compete in this marketplace. So let's just take an example of let's say I decided to start a competing cell phone company. It's like, all right, I want to start a business that builds cell phones, all right? So now I've entered this marketplace where I'm competing against Apple, I'm competing against Samsung, I'm competing against Microsoft, I'm competing against Nokia, I'm competing against, I don't even know who all the players are. Google, I think, is creating cell phones now, right? So I enter into this game and I start building cell phones. Well, how do I win? I win by being able to build cell phones and sell them in the marketplace. That is winning. How do I lose? When I run out of the will and resources to continue to build cell phones and sell them in that market. So that could look like a number of different things. I no longer have enough money to continue to try to develop a product to go and compete. I don't have the marketing budget to beat out the big players like Apple and Samsung who already have, a designated market share. I don't have the personnel or the, employees who know how to build cell phones at a rate that's going to compete against the other established players in the game. I don't have a smart enough marketing strategy. I'm not able to manage my finances well enough. I'm not able to manage overhead. I don't know how to run a factory. Like, there could be a myriad of reasons that I run out of the will and the resources. And will is just like, when things go bad, do I have enough willpower to go solve another problem? Because that's really all it is, right? Oh, we've run out of money. Do I have enough willpower to go exhaust as many options as it takes to get enough, to get another round of financing to keep going, or, to go do the research on, some new technology, or the longevity to develop a new technology, or whatever the case is. Do I have the will and resources to keep playing the game? And that really all there is. So there's playing the game or quitting the game. And that's what an infinite game is. And when I first heard that talk by Simon Sinek, I was like, oh, going for a dream is an infinite game. That's the game I'm in as a comedian, as an actor. I'm in an infinite game. There is no set rules. There is no set time frame. The players are coming and going. Like today, somebody decided to try stand-up comedy for the first time. Today, some new actor moved out to LA to try to become an actor. Some new singer-songwriter stepped on an open mic stage and decided to do their first song, at an open mic, right? And by the same token, today, somewhere in the world, some stand-up comedian decided, you know what? I don't want to do comedy anymore. I don't have it in it. I don't have it in me anymore. An actor quit. I can't keep doing this. I better go find something else to do. I'm not making enough money. I'm not making a living. It's too hard. It's too stressful. So the players in the game are constantly fluctuating. You don't ever know who your competition is going to be on any sort of given day. And again, there are no rules for winning and losing. It's like, well, how do you win as a stand-up comedian? Now, you can set personal goals. You can say, well, I win when I, get booked at a certain club. I win when I'm able to tour. I win when I book, a late-night television show. I win when I end up on America's Got Talent. I win when I get booked on Saturday Night Live. I win when I get booked in a TV show. Or I win when I'm a national touring headliner. Great. That may be your definition of winning, but say you get that thing. So say you get the late night set, or say now you're a national touring headliner. Great, now what? What's next? Right? In an infinite game, it never ends. It is a never-ending pursuit of, do I have the will and the resources to continue to play this infinite game? In my case, it's comedy, it's acting, it's performing. Whatever the case is, with you, it could be, like your relationship, right? Like, what's a marriage? A marriage is an infinite game. It may seem like there's definitely a beginning, right? There's a wedding, and throughout my life, I have seen there's so much romanticism around the wedding, right? That's every rom-com. It's like, just get to the wedding. Once they get married, then game over. It's like, no, once you're married, the infinite game starts, because marriage is an infinite game, and it always perpetuates. You're always adjusting. You're always working together to try to keep the relationship going. And as long as the relationship is going, you're winning. Soon as the relationship, it's like, we don't have the will and resources to keep this marriage going, then that infinite game ends. And it's not really losing. It's just, all right, well, that game is now ended. Time to get into a new infinite game, right? Relationships, business, dreams, so many things in life are infinite games. The challenge is, or maybe perhaps what's frustrating, is when we try to treat an infinite game like a finite game. It's like we want to know, like as a comedian, it's like, well, I want to know how many quarters there are, and if I won or lost at the end of that quarter, at the end of those 4 quarters or whatever. And it's just not the case. It's just not the case. And I think one of the most significant challenges for me as I pursued this dream is retooling my mind and retooling my mindset and my energy to the reality that I've entered into an infinite game. And this isn't a give it a couple years and see what happens. You know, that's trying to subject a finite game on top of an infinite game. And one more anecdote. I was at this comedy festival in LA. This is 4 or 5 years ago. And there was like this industry panel of like a casting agent. There was like a casting agent, like a booker, a comedy club booker, I think like a regular talent agent, a talent manager, like those types of people, like people more on the business side of entertainment. And one of those industry people, and I could probably find the email if I looked really hard in my inbox because I kept it. But I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I don't remember what he was. I think he was a casting director. And we're doing this Q&A, and somebody in the audience asked a question like, well, you know, how do you get cast in a show or whatever? And this casting director answers, and he goes, you know, so many people think that this industry is a numbers game. Like, just get so many auditions. X amount of auditions are going to result in X amount of callbacks. X amount of callbacks are going to result in X amount of bookings. And he just goes, I'm here to tell everybody, this industry is not a numbers game. And that was it. And I'm sitting there in the audience going, wait, I kind of thought it was a numbers game. So if it's not a numbers game, what is it? And he didn't elaborate. He just kind of ended there like, yeah, it's not a numbers game. Next question, right? And so after their little industry panel, we were able to do a meet and greet, and we were able to meet all of them, like in a little reception hall type situation. And so I was able to meet him, and I just said, hey, I really appreciated your answer, but you said it's not a numbers game. Well, if it's not a numbers game, what is it? If it's not that, then what is it is? And he just says, well, you really want to know? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I don't have time to answer now, so here's my card. Send me an email, and I'll reply. I was like, oh, okay. So I went home, and I sent him an email. Hey, saw you at the industry panel. You had mentioned that, this industry is not a numbers game, and I'm curious what it is then, if not a numbers game. And he gave me this answer, and he said, so many people come to Hollywood with a time frame. They go, I'm going to give it 2 years. And if by 2 years in, I haven't met some arbitrary goal, then I'm out. And I'm paraphrasing the email. And he said, I remember meeting 2 very talented actors who were pretty much the same. They were very comparable. They were both very talented. They were both very handsome. And he goes, but one of them had a time frame and said, I'm going to go to Hollywood and I'm going to give it 2 years. And if not, then I'm going to move back, right? This actor moving to Hollywood already had a finite game mentality of, I'm going to give it 2 years. I'm going to give it 4 quarters. And if by 4 quarters, if after 2 years, I'm saying 4 quarters. I'm comparing it to football. That he's putting a finite game time frame on an infinite game. And he goes, and after 2 years, he moved back home. He quit. He goes, the other actor had an infinite mindset and said, I'm going to move to Hollywood and I'm going to pursue this dream until indefinitely. And he goes, the guy who was there for 2 years you've never heard of, the other guy is Chris Pratt. Right? So he's pretty much saying there were 2 Chris Pratts, right? One of them had a finite game theory mindset. One of them had an infinite game theory mindset. The infinite game theory mindset was the Chris Pratt who we know and love and who's a famous leading actor in Hollywood. So, whatever dream you're pursuing, whatever dream I'm pursuing, I constantly remind myself, this is an infinite game. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt to set goals. That means it doesn't hurt to set little milestones. But remember, those goals and those milestones are only there to serve you if they keep you playing the game. Assuming that's what you really want. And not everything's for everybody. And that's totally fine, right? Find the infinite game that is worth it for you to keep playing. And that could be totally something different. That could be a 9-to-5 corporate job. That's an infinite game. That's can I wake up every day and go to this job and earn a living and be fulfilled? I mean, I don't ever want to come across like I'm suggesting that everybody on the planet should be an actor, comedian, or a musician, or an artist. What I am suggesting is if you have a dream and you have a passion, or there's something that you want to pursue, or there's something lacking in your life, or there's something that's calling to you, go for it and understand that having an infinite game mindset is essential to find success. At least from where I'm sitting. All right, everybody. That's all for today. I hope you're all doing well. I hope your dreams are coming true. You're finding fulfillment, joy, and happiness in the journey. This is the Paul Green Comedy Podcast for November 1st, 2024. We are in the holiday season, everybody. It's going to be Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's before we know it, and on to another year. I love you all so much. I hope you're doing well, and I will talk to you tomorrow.